Hi everybody, Last Patriot here, coming to you once again from beautiful upstate New York. I'm going to do this video handheld because I'm on a rocky outcropping and there are no trees that have this beautiful view of the lake and the hills, so I'm going to just hold this. Today was one day before Independence Day 2019. You know, the Last Patriot has to say a word about Independence Day. On days like this, Independence Day, Memorial Day, and Veterans Day, for me anyway, it's not a day to just sit around drinking beer and getting fat. Take a minute to remember all the men that made the ultimate sacrifice for this country. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. So today, what I want to talk to you about is one of the three most important principles of, in my opinion, of being a survivalist. The first one is being in good physical shape. The second one is being a member of a team. And the third one, which we're going to talk about today, is what I call redundancy, or the military acronym is PACE, P-A-C-E. Stands for Primary, Alternate, Contingency, and Emergency. And basically what that means is if you have a plan, have at least 3 alternate plans, and we can apply it for those of us that are not in the service. If something is important, you better have more than one. If it's a piece of gear, if it's a plan, if it's something you want to put into effect someday, have a backup plan, because plan A very often won't work. And when it comes to gear, stuff breaks, batteries die, you drop it in the river, your dog chews it up, whatever. So the best, we can talk about a book for a second. The best book I think I've ever read, and it was called Steal My Soldiers' Hearts by Colonel David Hackworth, and Steal is spelled S-T-E-A-L. It means make my soldiers' hearts hard so they can do their job. What was great about it, it was about a colonel, lieutenant colonel in Vietnam, and the company he commanded, or the unit he commanded. What was great about it was I learned how to prepare, how to get ready. And the lesson I learned from Colonel Hackworth was, let's say in his unit he had three platoon commanders that were lieutenants. So you need 3 good lieutenants that are battle hardened and seasoned and know what they're doing. So once he had three good platoon commanders, he didn't just kick back and chill either, because he knew that those guys could transfer, they could get reassigned, they could get rotated home, and unfortunately, of course, sometimes they get killed. So if you need 3 good lieutenants, you probably need to have 3 on the line, and at least 3 in reserve. He called it keeping them on the shelf. So when you get a new lieutenant in from wherever they came in, you train him, put him through the paces, and then once he's ready, you know he's ready. And if another lieutenant needs to be replaced, you have somebody. And that was a great book, by the way. If you can find that, especially if you're a young guy, teenage guy coming up, or it'll help you kind of get your life, on the straight and narrow. I wish I had read it when I was a teenager. Steal My Soldiers' Hearts by David Hackworth. Okay, and the way we can apply that, or what I've learned, is that, let's say equipment, right? When I'm in the field, I always, the trail I just came up was down there. I don't know if you could see it. I always film these videos at the top of a hill for a good vantage point, but it's a bit of a hump to get up here. So to me, when I'm in the field, the 4 most important pieces of gear to me are a knife, a compass, a way to make fire, and artificial light. Right, those 4 things, when I'm in the field, I always have them in my pants pocket, not in my jacket pocket, because you could take your jacket off during the day, put it in your pack rolls off a hill, now you got nothing. So I'll have one of those in my pants pocket. Usually most of that stuff can fit on your keychain. And then I'll have at least one more of all of those in my pack. And just as an example, There's your typical knapsack. It has the big main pouch, and then it has that second little pouch. I keep my headlamp in that second pouch where it's easy to find, even in a complete dark. I can find that just by feel, because that's really, you know, if it's dark, having artificial light, that's very important, because it's hard to do anything without that. And I learned from one of my buddies, Pastor Mike, that when you're really cooking with gas is when you can operate your equipment with your eyes closed. That means you don't have to look at it. You can just feel for it, and you know exactly where it is. You know where the button, you know, with those little headlamps, sometimes it's a little tricky to find the buttons. You got to practice all that, so when you need it, you'll have it. If you're outside, it doesn't get dark right away. You know, it's not like inside where there's a blackout and all of a sudden it's completely black. You know, you can see it's starting to get a little, a couple hours before sunset, it's starting to get a little dark. But, you know, if you get lost in the woods, at some point you're going to realize you're lost, and you may have to spend the night there. So you'll have time to rummage around, but just to be on the safe side, keep your artificial light close at hand where you can find it easily. And with a plan, if you have, let's say, we use the example of a bug out plan. Your first choice for those of us that have vehicles, you know, four-wheel vehicles, of course your first choice is always to drive. But that may not be an option. If there's an EMP, most modern vehicles will not operate. And for those of us, unfortunately, live in congested areas, there's probably going to be traffic. I mean, there's traffic anyway. And if there's an emergency, you assume the roads are going to be jammed. So taking your car is not an option. So that's your primary plan. Your alternate plan, let's say for me, it might be a motorcycle, right? A dirt bike. Those are great. For those of you that know how to ride, you can go almost anywhere with them. You can carry gear. They get excellent gas mileage. So plan, let's say primary, that would be alternate. Your contingency plan, let's say if you can't take a motorcycle, let's say there's a foot of snow outside, or you're injured and you can't ride. Your contingency plan, well, I guess it would be similar, but your contingency plan will be a bicycle. Let's say your motorcycle, you haven't ridden in a few months, the battery's dead, the carbs are all gummed up, and your motorcycle doesn't work. Your contingency plan, PAC, right now we're up to C, would be a bicycle. And that's a good plan too, but same thing. For whatever reason, you have two flat tires, or whatever, the chain's rusty, you broke a brake cable, whatever. Let's say the bicycle is not an option. Your emergency plan, your absolute last choice, is the 10-toe express walking, right? You got to throw your bag on your back and, you know, beat feet. And that's, of course, your last choice, your least preferable choice, because you're not going to be able to carry a lot of gear. Some of us may not be in great shape. If you got kids, if you got elderly relatives, I mean, you can't put your grandmother on a motorcycle either, but, you know, walking is always the last choice. But it's a plan. And if you're a serious prepper, a serious survivalist, you'll have those plans, and you'll practice them over and over. We can learn from special forces, and those guys are real life superheroes. Unbelievable what they do. But even once they make it, they train constantly, over and over. They can do these things in their sleep. They can run these operations in their sleep, and we can learn from them. Obviously, I'm not special forces. I was never in the military, but we can learn from them. And just even the simple things like when I'm in the field, I carry a notepad in case I have to leave a note for a teammate. And I also carry a separate little plastic bag in case it's raining. You always have to assume the worst, that's going to be raining. If I want to leave a note, I put it in a little Ziploc bag, hang it on a tree, put it under a rock, whatever. My teammate will find it. So just those little things, just run them over, think ahead, think what could go wrong, and just practice and run it and run it and run it. And then once you're done, I mean, you're never 1,000% done, but you know, you'll have an idea when you have a skill. Then you can kind of move on to something else or help train someone else. And but you're never done. Like I said, even these special forces guys, they run through things constantly. So if they do it, we definitely have to do it. Whew, okay, so great view, one of my best views, right before sunset. There's the lake. All right, so those are the 3 principles of survivalism. Learn them, check out our other videos, practice, train hard. And happy 4th of July tomorrow. This is the Last Patriot signing off. reminding you to always be prepared.